So let's get down to business, shall we? In addition to hosting these Meet New Ely-area programs, a Tuesday group, Boundary Waters Connect offers programs and services for new and prospective residents. So if any of you are a new resident and you haven't yet had a chance to have a one-on-one coffee date with me or a Boundary Waters Connect volunteer, where you get a welcome gift bag and a hand-thrown mug celebrating you as a new Elyiite, you can definitely reach out and we'll get that set up. We host semi-regular new resident social events. I don't have the next one on the book yet, but I'm looking forward to something in October. And so without further ado, allow me to invite Randy to the podium. Thank you, Randy, for your volunteerism making this program a success. Join me in celebrating Randy with a round of applause.
I've learned my lesson. We have a full house today. No funny stories, no nothing out of me. So we'll get started. So our first presenter, Robin Seaport, is a relatively new Elyite. I'll let her tell the story.
I have been here for 2 years. That's what he said, relatively. And they've been bugging me to do this for 2 years, and I keep putting it off. Yes. All right. Well, I moved up 2 years ago and bought a house in town, and the house was built in 1895 by the first mayor of Ely, and I've been working on it ever since. And I also have 2 jobs. I work at the boathouse, and I now work at Razor's Edge as well. So I'm a busy girl, and I think I need to quit both jobs so I can go to all these cool meetings that I'm going to. I did myself some cheat sheet. I am kind of a gopher at Razor's Edge. I put kits together for them to sell and doing receiving. Yeah, it's a little odd job, so I only work a couple hours a day there one morning. Yeah, all right. Well, I grew up in the Twin Cities. I grew up in Mendota Heights, which is near the airport, for those of you who know that. And my mother still lives there. She's 85. And she has Alzheimer's, although she's doing fairly well. I did live with her the year before I moved up here and put in place a bunch of things to help her out. So I go down there quite often to see her. And I also have 2 stepchildren that live in Bloomington, Minnesota, and 3 grandchildren. So I do a lot of back and forth. But every time I go down to the cities, it's just more and more wall-to-wall people and buildings and cars, and I can't wait to get back up here. Why did I come up here? Because I started with the Boundary Waters. I led trips for a number of years. I was a teacher. I taught biology and life science for 29 years. And most of that was in Hastings. And I got to leading trips even before that. I led a couple of church group trips way back. And then I led 8th grade girl trips for a number of years. Then I led some high school kids trips up here. And then when that was kind of over, then I started just doing some women's trips into the Boundary Waters. So I've been up here many, many times. And I love the woods. I love the lakes and I love camping, but I love the woods. I like to cross country ski. And our winters down where I lived in Hastings, Minnesota, were pretty immense. So people say, oh, why would you want to move to Ely? They have just horrible winters. And I'm like, I love that. So last winter, of course, you know what it was like. Not a fun winter for me, although the driving part of it was nice. But the rest of it was a bummer. So anyhow, I grew up in Mendota Heights, and then I became a teacher, and I moved to Mankato for 3 years. Taught down there, my first teaching job. And then when I got married, moved to Prescott, Wisconsin, and I taught in Hastings for 25 years. So I moved, was in Prescott, Wisconsin for 20 of those 25 years, and then I lived the rest of the time in Hastings, and then moved with my mother 1 year. And then I came up here. I had enough of teaching. It kind of burned me out, especially just the constant grading and preparing every night. You just never really got a break in education, you know that. So I was ready for something new. So went back to waitressing, which I had done for 7 years as a young lady. All right, let's see, what else? So I still don't, I said that already. Ely really is a perfect town for me. I lived in Prescott, Wisconsin for almost 20 years, and Prescott is about the same size. It's not too far from St. Paul, so it's a different vibe than up here. This is much more beautiful, but I love the small town atmosphere. Love how laid back it is, and I love how people are friendly to each other. So it's just really a good fit for me. Ely is a wonderful place to be. Years. So I live near the bowling alley, and it's a wonderful place in town to live. I get to hear the church bells all the time, and I have a new neighbor that just moved in. And he's like, "Oh, those church bells are horrible." I'm like, "What are you talking about? I love those things." So we have disagreement about that, but I love to bike the trails. I live, close to Miners Lake. I hike around the lake. I go for hikes on Bass Lake and Blackstone, and I like to bike around here as well. So it's really a wonderful place to be. Let's see, I think I've told you most. Oh, I love the garden as well. And I haven't been able to do a whole lot of that yet because right now we're tearing off all the stuff on the outside of my house and residing it. So my gardens need to be protected from falling debris. Any questions for me at all?
Vegetable gardening?
I like flower and vegetable both. Yeah.
Tell me, does Razor Edge still sharpen knife?
They do. Razor Edge does sharpen knives for the community. So yes, you could bring your knives in there. They're really good people. I really enjoy working there. So and the boathouse is wonderful too. I enjoy both those places immensely. And I don't have to bring anything home. I really like that. Yeah. All right. Thank you very much.
Okay, next we have I don't want to say a future hero. I think he's a hero now. He and his wife have opened the Frisky Otter here in town, and he's taken a little time out of his busy schedule to come and talk to us. So, Michael. Yes.
What a fantastic turnout. I thought it was just going to be a small little group. Yeah. No, quite large. Well, if I fall asleep up here, it's because I've been working nonstop for the last few weeks, 16 hours a day. It's been pretty tough. It's been tough. And my wife, she's there right now working. We have a bunch of people in prepping. When we first started out, we figured out we're going to hire maybe 12 employees to start, and my wife and I and my daughter Kiara, who's 17, would be working, and we'd probably be able to handle it. Yesterday, I hired my 49th employee. Absolutely, we've been on a wait pretty much every day, trying to. I had a previous restaurant, just to give you an idea. And it was about the same size interior-wise, but we didn't have the outdoor space, which adds on about 20 tables, and you could fit quite a few people out there. On a Friday fish fry, we do maybe 110 fish fries, and then we'd have some other fish special. We had like a encrusted whatever snapper, whatever kind of fish. Here we strictly are using walleye now. But last Friday we did 150 fish fries. 110 was our biggest we ever did at our other restaurant.
Or lean into that one if you want.
And so we did about 150 fish fries, and we did 57 encrusted walleyes. That was just those entrees. So altogether, I think we did close to 500 entrees. Right. It was just absolutely incredible. The kitchen was just beat to death. So we hired 5 new kitchen staff people that are actually training right now and prep people. So we were planning to just close Tuesdays. For the month of June, we're going to close Monday and Tuesdays just to train these guys. And we have to give our cooks some time off. But that being said, things are going fabulous. There's been a lot of bumps in the road, that we're getting past, and getting everyone to gel together has been a great thing. And I know we were looking at purchasing a restaurant here for years. We looked at a couple different places, and we were really excited to find this. Rockwood, just the location of it was fabulous. It had its parking. The kitchen was nice. It had a lot of smoking. They did a lot of smoking in there, so there was some equipment we don't really use as much. So I brought some different things in. But overall, the kitchen was fabulous, and we just kind of warmed it up a little bit as far as the aesthetics of it, the inside, as far as doing the flooring and adding some walls, because there were so many windows that just made it a little cold. So we think we got it where we kind of want it as far as interior wise. But we are so excited to be here, and we really were waiting probably a few more years to do the restaurant thing. My wife and I, we live up here about 7 months out of the year. And now we're here pretty much full time. But we were in Florida. We had a real estate company. We're from the Midwest. We've both been in Wisconsin and Illinois most of our lives. A little bit in the UP as well. But we've pretty much been in Florida for the last 25 years, at least about 5 months out of the year. We had a real estate company, and years ago I got involved in dealing with professional athletes, where I either sell them homes, they'd come in for a PGA tour, or whether it was a professional football player or something, and they were training, find them a place for 5 or 6 months, or sell them a property. So I did that for years, and I got hooked into Major League Baseball. So in Florida, I started doing all of basically housing, and the Twins are one of my teams. So some of the people I know here know me because I kind of do things with the Twins and the Redskins and some of those other teams. So I would spend my summers away from Florida, and I would come up to Ely, and of course I loved to fish, and we had a place here, and we'd stay here. And then my in-laws, they are up here in the summer now as well. So pretty much my whole family has gravitated up to Ely now. So we're really excited to be here. I, been coming up to Ely since I was a kid. My grandfather was in the Army, and in the 1930s, he had a buddy in the Army that introduced him to Ely, and he came up here and he went fishing. And for years after that, he introduced me, and then my buddies, we would all come up and go to the Boundary Waters. So it's been an ongoing thing, and I've kind of been pretty much everywhere, and patronized many of the different places over the years, Ely, and my family just loves it. My wife, Nicole, which I wish she could have been here today as well, she's from the Lake Geneva area, and she was very involved in restaurants. She did corporate stuff. She worked for Olive Garden and Ruby Tuesday, so she has much more of a restaurant background than I did. I have family that was in the restaurant business, so I have a little bit, but she has the whole, kind of runs. She's the brains of the operation. Nicole is also she just authored her first book a while back. It's a children's book, and she did it kind of just for fun. She spent probably about a year on it, and it's called The Bear, the Moon, and the Loon, and it's now on Barnes and Noble, and it's done absolutely fabulous. And it was a Northwoods book, and she kind of wrote it because of you. you know, and she does have copies for sale there, and I know she'd love to talk about it sometime. But I just wanted to thank you for inviting me today, and just, you know, letting you know a little bit about what's happening, and being patient with me over at the Frisky Otter, because we are still going through a little rough spot here and there, but we think it's going pretty well. Thank you.
It's gonna go. Oh. Randy, could you get his name again? I'm sorry.
Oh, Michael Cascone.
Michael.
Yes, go on.
Yeah.
Cascone,
Yeah.
yeah, and his wife's name Nicole, and that's the.
Yeah. Okay.
All right, our next presenter is I met her and her husband at a meeting at Northern Lights YMCA camp in January. They're definitely new Elyites, moved here in last fall, and wonderful people. So Carrie's agreed to come in and introduce herself.
Encourage you to get the microphone very close to your mouth if you're willing. Yeah. All right, like this? Yeah. Awesome. I made it. Don't mean to this podium, actually. I meant to Ely. So we finally made it. Yay! So thank you, Randy, for inviting me to talk. My husband can't be here today. He's traveling. But my husband Dave and I moved up here, like Randy said, last September, and it was a long time coming. I know you guys probably know the housing market. It's hard to find a house up here, so we've been looking for years and years. But anyway, I'm Terry Beauclair. My husband's Dave, and we both we live here full time, and we both work remotely. So I work for a company out of Dallas, and every time I tell them where I live, or they ask me, how long does it take you to drive to the Minneapolis airport? And I say 4 hours, and they go, you did this on purpose? And I'm, yes, absolutely on purpose. So just a little bit about us. Dave and I are both from Duluth, and we met. I was a Girl Scout, and he was a Boy Scout, and the rest is history. But we've known each other a long time, and we just celebrated our 30th wedding anniversary. He's from Central, and I'm from East, so that caused a little bit of trouble in case you know anything about Duluth. And he's also Catholic Methodist, so again, we have to have 2%, because that's craziness. Anyway, we have lived all over the place. I went to the University of Minnesota, and I worked for Midwest Mountaineering, which is no longer there, sadly. But I worked there for 5 years and sort of became a hippie. And my husband went to the Citadel in South Carolina and went into the military. So he went that way, and I went this way. And but then we met back in the middle. Dave, after he finished in the Citadel, went into the Navy. So he was a submariner for many years. He's a nuke, so he was on nuke submarines. And I was working at Midwest Mountaineering, and so then after that I worked for Patagonia, and Patagonia, if you know Yvon Chouinard from Patagonia, he's a great inspiration to me, and was really into corporate tithing, and I didn't know what that was, and so I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. You give back to the environment, you give back to nature, and so I took some time and got my master's degree and worked with nonprofits. So for the last 30 years, have been working with nonprofits, helping them raise money. I started with the Nature Conservancy. I've been with a lot of different nonprofits. Dave is he's in manufacturing, For a long time, he was with LTV Steel, and so the plan, it didn't work out, but the plan was that we were going to move back up here, and he was going to work for LTV Steel, but then LTV Steel shut down up here, so that didn't work. But we kept trying, and eventually we got here because we both work remote. We have 2 kids. My oldest is in grad school at St. Kate's, so he's doing his master's degree in nursing. And my youngest is at Purdue, and he is getting his degree in engineering, so just kind of like his dad. We have long ties to the area. I know I told you we're from Duluth, but Dave's dad was the engineer for St. Louis County, and my dad was a professor at UMD. So, and my mom was first generation, came over. Her dad was from Sweden, so we're Swedish, and just can't tell you how much we love like that heritage and that history. So I'm really excited to find that community up here as well. All right. So let's see. Now we are living out on Bear Island Lake. We have a dog. She's a rescue, and she's just kind of crazy. But she's fluffy and fun. We enjoy hunting and fishing and canoeing and camping. Dave's a private pilot, so he wanted me to say if there's any pilot people here, he really wants to get in with that community and talk to you about hangars. So, let's see. Oh, and we're just, I can't tell you how happy we are to be here. We're really looking forward to becoming part of this community. I've already been to a couple classes at the Post School. I love that part of it. Bushcraft and wilderness survival and hiking and canoeing. We can't wait to reach out and become great neighbors to y'all. So nice to meet you. Thanks again for having us, and look forward to doing more stuff with you. It sounds like there's a lot going on.
Thanks, Carrie. Next up, thanks to Pamela Nicole. She's a great resource for new Elyites. Is Brenna Colstead. He's Val and herself this story. Come on up.
I got you. Hello. Some of you may have read about my life story in the Echo. I was in there. I'm stuck with it. My name is Brenna Colstead. I'm 32. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a proud lesbian who moved up to Ely with my partner, Lauren Belland. We've been dating for almost 2 years. And she was going to be here, but she's unable to attend today's meeting due to caregiving responsibilities. Our little family consists of us, our 3 furry friends, Bruno, who's our Doberman Hound mix, and our 2 black cats, Jinx and Juniper. We live in town. We've been here almost 2 years, so yeah, we're still new. And we love all of our neighbors, love the community. I work here at the Grand Ely Lodge. Normally I work Tuesday mornings, so I got off today because it was my sister's bachelorette party this week. Lots of fun. But I do work up here at as a host in the restaurant, and you may also see me around town volunteering, shopping at the food shelf, walking around with my dog Bruno, performing karaoke at Zaverls, and attending maybe some meetings with the Ely Palestine Solidarity Group or Brave Angels, which again is tonight. I'm very active on many social justice fronts. So if you're passionate about human rights, anti-racism, anti-colonialism, and liberation from the oppressive systems that be, come chat with me later. I'm ready to be a change maker and meet some comrades. Okay. A little more about me. I love astrology. I love cats, video games, making TikToks, spending time with loved ones, and learning. I grew up in Avon, Minnesota, which is about 20 minutes outside of St. Cloud. I have lived in a few other states, Missouri and Texas, and I've traveled quite extensively around the United States, but never out of the nation. I have 2 younger siblings who both mean the world to me, my younger brother Sebastian and my younger sister Daisy. And she's going to get married in September this year, so I'm really excited about that. I've worked many jobs and recently graduated in December with my bachelor's in social sciences, specifically sociology, and a minor in family studies. I'm hoping to use my degree to better understand people's needs and work to fulfill those needs. Overall, I'm a chatty, positive person who loves other humans. Not perfect and make mistakes, but I continue to question and change my actions based on my values and beliefs. Recently, I've been educating myself on the pillars of white supremacy and how I play a role in upholding the status quo. I also joined a group for women that meets Thursdays from 3 to 4 in Virginia for sexual assault survivors. If you are interested in meeting in Virginia from 3 to 4 on Thursdays and or need a ride, please feel free to talk to me outside of Tuesday group. Here in Ely, we lack adequate transportation, housing security, and we live in a food desert. But I love the food here. Don't get me wrong, you guys. Like Crispy Hour up and coming. We got Gel here. We got plenty of great places. But I'm really hoping to be a part of helping these parts of our community grow because I have grown to love this town and all the inhabitants, including the pesky deer. I'm so thankful for Tuesday groups to host and honored to share about myself. Huge shout out to all the staff here. None of the staff are going to hear this, but huge shout out to them at the Gel. Please tip your wait staff. We had a call off today. I'm not working, and we had a call off, so they are working extra hard. I hope you all have a great, safe summer. I can't wait to meet even more people from the community, and I'm open to questions. I threw a lot at everything. Thank you.
How did you identify Ely as a place you wanted to be?
That's a great question. So I didn't even know where Ely was. My girlfriend and I both worked at Target Corporate. We both did security down there. She was working about 7 years down at Target Corporate in Minneapolis location, and I worked about 4 years at the Brooklyn Park location. So we met at work, and because of her, we both just hated corporate America, and we just wanted to leave. So I was telling her that I was planning on quitting my job without any plans and living in my van with my cats. That was my plan. And I didn't know where I was going to go. I didn't know who I was going to do it with, but that was the plan. And she told me she wanted to leave her job and move up to a place called Ely. And I said, where's Ely? And she's like, it's south of Canada. I was like, this was just after Roe v. Wade had just been overturned. And so I literally was like, listen, I don't want to leave America. But I was like, oh, yes, close to Canada. I was like, huh. So here we are. So I didn't know about, the furthest up north I had been was Duluth, and that was just a couple years prior. So my family doesn't have cabins. We don't know the area. And now that I'm here and have met the community, it's been just life changing. I mean, just being up here with everyone. But that's how we got up here. We quit our jobs and we moved up here, and I work here as a hostess, and she works at Bearhead Lake State Park. So if you see the girl with the red hair and the mullet, that's my girlfriend Lauren. So yeah.
Thank you.
Thanks, guys. Yeah, that's very good. Thank you.
Thanks, Brenda. All right, next up is a surprise one for today, but a good one. It's Molly Roski with the Refugee Resettlement Program.
Thank you. Ooh, Molly. Hey, thanks. So this is a little bit atypical, maybe unorthodox for new Elyites. Some of you were probably here when I presented myself as a new Elyite some time ago. Was that last fall? The fall before? I don't recall. My name is Molly Roski. I'm a relatively recent transplant to Ely. This is my husband, Timothy Loney. We both teach at the college here at Minnesota North College, Vermillion campus. I teach natural resources. Timothy teaches sociology and criminal justice. Shout out for social justice stuff. I was supposed to hold the mic close. That's right.
I'm here to talk to you today about an opportunity to bring a new type of Elyites to town that may have been sort of outside of our reach or consciousness before. And I'm going to tell some backstory before I get to the chase here. For those of you who know my biography, I've spent a significant portion of my adult life living abroad, living in Latin America. And for 2.5, 3 years, I was living in Ecuador. And one of my dear friends during that time was named Orlando, Jaime Orlando Santos. Orlando is Venezuelan of heritage, but as many of you probably know, many of its people have been fleeing Venezuela for the last decade. And Orlando was one of those people working hard and working legally in Ecuador for the years that he and I both overlapped there and became really close friends. Orlando is one of the hardest working people I know. Recently, and by the way, I had no idea he had a refugee case open with the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. He never once mentioned it to me. He's a humble guy. He would not have wanted to involve me in something that concerns, our federal government and doesn't involve me at all. Until last week, he got an email from one of the sub-programs related to the U.S. program for the admission of refugees, notifying him that he was eligible for something called Welcome Corps. I doubt anyone's heard of it before. In fact, one hand, I'll write that. Welcome Corps is a program that basically, I think that the spirit of the program is to amplify the reach and the capacity of the U.S. government to resettle worthy refugees to the U.S. because, frankly, our refugee resettlement agencies and the funding of the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program are already pretty fully strapped. And so what this does is it says to a refugee with a case in process, an application in process, who's still living abroad outside their home country, listen, you're eligible for permanent resettlement to the U.S. if you can find a sponsor group of citizens or green card holders in the U.S. who are willing to organize all of your services that you're going to need during your first 3 months of resettlement in the United States. And it is a pathway towards permanent residency, legal residency here in the U.S. This is a guy who wants to play by the book. He's never once considered going illegally to another country, working illegally in another country. And I think he's a really worthy candidate. He reached out to me because I'm one of the only people he knows in this country. He does have family here who are on TPS's temporary protected status. And it's for folks from countries like Venezuela, like Haiti, other places that are war-torn or suffering other types of crises who have a temporary protected status here in the U.S. Not the same thing as being a green card holder or a permanent resident, because TPS can be revoked by any administration or any change in government policy. So anyway, getting to the chase here. I'm stepping forward as the coordinator of a sponsor group. I'm presenting to you today because I need to find at least 4 and potentially more folks willing to help me sponsor this individual during his first 3 months. So what does that look like? We can pull up, hey, she's got it pulled up. Awesome. This is the U.S. Department of State's website showing you their information on Welcome Corps. It's a refugee sponsorship initiative under the U.S. Refugee Admissions Program. Americans, in groups of at least 5 adults, support newly arrived refugees by securing and preparing initial housing, greeting them at the airport, enrolling children in school, which, by the way, Orlando is a single guy. He doesn't have a family or kids, so there's just one person we need to accommodate. Helping adults find employment and meet other needs to ensure they are prepared for life in the United States. Welcome Corps itself has its own website here, so I'm going to launch that. If I can figure out how to do it. Okay, so there's tons of information on the actual Welcome Corps website itself, and I can't seem to scroll, so we're going to go over here. Try that. So there's tons of information, and Orlando and I have been on many a WhatsApp call figuring stuff out over the last week. We are essentially, I've heard today things like folks in the food service industry. Orlando is a very hardworking waiter and bartender. He is polished, he's professional, he's very good at what he does. His English is probably middle. the basic. So we need to register him in ESL courses. I've already been researching online ESL courses. If anyone knows of in-person ones available here in Ely, let me know. Housing is always an issue here in Ely. If we can find a place for Orlando to land during the first 3 months, great. If we need to find an apartment where we pay the rent, then we fundraise the rent. There's a minimum fundraising of $1,500. Doesn't seem insurmountable to me. Orlando has offered to pay that himself, and I said, that's not the point of this program. The point of this program is for us to fundraise, to find ways to accommodate your basic needs, because you might need those savings down the road. But he is a hardworking guy with savings, and he's offered to put that up just because he feels, I think he feels a little bit guilty having other people do all of this for him. But if it's a good pathway for a hardworking person to come to the United States as a refugee, then I'm willing to put in the effort for him. And I told him, Orlando, if we're gonna do this thing, we're gonna do it right, and we're gonna do right by you. So if you have any interest in supporting this, I already created a GoFundMe. Let me see if I can. Let's see. I have a QR code and I have the link. I wonder if I can pull it up on your computer. But we have a GoFundMe started already. I'm, as I mentioned, I'm looking for other individuals who might bring resources, skills, or some of the tangibles we might need to support Orlando during his first 3 months. So it's a 90-day commitment. We don't know when those 90 days will start because there's a whole bunch of vetting that he's going to have to do. And it's good that he's in Ecuador because one has to be in a country abroad where there's capacity for the interviews and the medical screenings and all of that. And Ecuador has that, which is good. But the situation in Ecuador is getting more and more tenuous. And that government is starting to crack down on, not crack down, they're starting to winnow down the number of legal work visas that they continue to renew for Venezuelans. I think the government there is, going through its own swings of politics. And so the situation is getting harder and harder for somebody like Orlando. Identifies as gay and he identifies as partially of Afro-Latino heritage. And so that's just getting harder and harder for somebody of his biography there in Ecuador. So if anyone in this group has interest in learning more, if anyone has connections to things like housing, employment in the service industry, Spanish language skills to assist me in providing primary translation services for his first few months, connection to ESL courses, knowledge of how to navigate public health services. He will come with his work authorization already done or underway. He'll come with the process for getting a social security number underway. So it's really just things like connecting him to SNAP, Supplemental Nutritional Assistance Program, or Medicaid for his public insurance once he comes. So it's things like that I would really be looking for support in, because I'm not an expert in those areas, but I'm betting there's somebody in this group or in the wider community in Ely with that expertise and knowledge. So I just thought I would make my best pitch to you all today. I'm told that this information will be in the next email, and either the GoFundMe link or QR code will be there as well. Yeah, awesome, thank you. Do we have time for questions or anything?
Brief. Two
Okay.
questions.
Brief, 2 questions, yes.
What is the pathway to citizenship?
I'm not real up on the details, but my understanding is that once authorized as a refugee resettled to the U.S., that is the authorization needed to initiate the process of being a green card holder, so a permanent legal resident of the U.S. Yeah, good question. Okay, in the back, we'll see if it's the same question as the other 2 have. He's in Ecuador now. He's been there for 7 years. He and I overlapped for 3 of those years. Yep. Good question. Okay, you pick. I don't. Okay.
Is this the start of having more people come here?
That's a good question. Having more folks resettled here is beyond perhaps the commitment that I can put forward right now. But I think that if the Welcome Core model proves successful via this test case, if you will, I think the point of it is to provide rural communities with a rich sense of community and rich variety of opportunities like Ely has, an open door to welcome more refugees should there be interest in enough private sponsors here. So I think it could be very. He has family in the States. He has family, I think he has one person in DC and a couple folks in Miami is what he told me. And I was like, are you sure you want to come to Ely? And he's like, it sounds charming, actually.
I'm excited to meet him at the get him up.
There we go. Thank you.
Skiing. All right, next up, Beth Chapman. He's on the BCC Foundation Board, the same board. She's just really active.
I don't have much time, and I'm following all these amazing people. What an honor. Thank you, everyone. So, do we go forward? All right, Randy said I had about 9 slides. And because I love engaging an audience, I figured you wanted to see some pictures and a few comments about my life. So, my life in 9 slides or so. I have been born and raised in northeastern Minnesota. Amazingly, I haven't left because it's so cool. I was privately educated. My mother was a teacher, and she decided as soon as she potty trained us, she didn't really want to send us off because we're actually getting cool. And so we got the most wonderful education ever. Having a teacher raise you is amazing. My professional education is in business, finance, and entrepreneurship. 4-H is something I'm passionate about in youth education. I have run several businesses, both as a youth and as an adult. Now have transferred over to the nonprofit side in consulting. I've always needed glasses, and I'm always reading. So the book sale was I did not go probably because I won't ever leave. Why Ely? Because it's really the best place. My parents actually chose to move to Ely when they did the circle tour of Lake Superior almost 50 years ago. And goodness gracious, we have a street named after me, Chapman Street. Isn't that like the best reason to move here? As well as a wonderful, vibrant community. Ely has not only increased in this since my parents joined the region, but it's growing, and I can see that from this here. So that's why I moved to Ely. I enjoy dog sledding and dog training through my 4-H endeavors as a young child. Outdoor adventures of all kinds. If you mention anything outside and it has a little bit of fun attached, I'm probably in. I do like cooking and baking, which my husband appreciates with those around me who get random treats. I also like gardening, as someone else mentioned. I love teamwork, so whenever there's a project that involves people with positive attitude for the common mission, I'm in, and as well as creating positive change. And random fact, I did start gardening probably in utero, but for sure when I was 1, because my mom said I started eating dirt. Personal values is faith, connection, nature, strategic growth, creativity, and curiosity. My tip is always work with a life coach because really cool people do, and you really grow. Random fact, I was able to travel last year with an NGO and teach business to tribal women who have never had any professional education in the Middle East. I can't say any more than that because we're on video, but if you want more details, talk to me. So immigration and education is something I know a bit about. Professional life, as mentioned, I am the current executive director for the Vermilion Foundation, and we provide scholarships and support to students on the campus. I also am involved with other nonprofit entities like the Sage Foundation, because of joining us today. I also serve as a board member on the Entrepreneur Fund. I manage the loan committees, so we disperse millions of dollars in our region in northern Wisconsin and central Minnesota to businesses and organizations to create quality jobs and vibrant communities. I also do some consulting as well. If you want to connect with me, because I like connection, There's my email, my LinkedIn, and Facebook and Instagram, and I also attend Tuesday groups, and you probably see me around town. And my favorite picture of all time, my lovely husband, and my favorite verse. So may the Lord bless you today and keep you, and may his face shine upon you and give you peace.
What's your partner do?
My wonderful husband teaches at the college. He is a chemistry and water instructor. And hopefully I kept it under 6 minutes.
You're running the show.
I have done a little bit of this in my past life. Gosh, how wholesome is this?
I meant to say something earlier. It's something I'm really passionate about. Wearing my Boundary Waters Connect hat and knowing that our new residents are something that are such an asset to our community. We learn so much from the diversity of thought and experience that new residents bring to our community. And there's a resource that I've really enjoyed called This Is Where You Belong. So if you're a new person in town, there is a book out there written by an author named Melody Warnick who talks about like very concrete strategies to make a new town feel like home. And one of the most poignant quotes from the book is that it's the relationships that make your new town feel like home. And so I sincerely hope that all of you are able to invest your time and energy in building relationships with your neighbors, because that is what makes home home. Randy, any closing thoughts?
Nothing comes to mind.
We look forward to seeing you next
It's a
week.
great group today.
Such a great group, Sharon.
Magician said 2 o'clock.
Ooh, we've come full circle. The Magician is at 2 o'clock on Friday, on Thursday. All right. Support the Ballot Library, support the Ely Library, build relationships with your neighbors, and see you next week.